Well, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. I'm Kate Luzio. I'm the founder and CEO of Luminary and also the host of Goaldigger. We've sort of done a little bit of hiatuses this summer. Every couple of weeks, we've done a Goaldigger. And now that it's fall, it's hard to believe it's September. We are back every week on Fridays. And I am so excited to have our guest today, Sybil Clark-Amudi, who is the founder of the Great Girlfriends, but so much more than that. And we're going to hear about her journey, how she found her voice, how she continues to be an ultimate gold digger, and more about how you can find her and what she's doing. And I'm really excited because I'm part of, and you'll hear more about it later, the Great Girlfriends Conference later this month. But welcome, Sybil.
Thank you so much, Kate. It's such a pleasure to be with you here today on this beautiful Friday. So happy Friday to you and to everyone out there in the Gold Digger community.
and we were just before for those that are going to listen now and listen later, I was just complimenting Sybil on the fact that she is outside and in nature, and it feels even through the screen so good, right? It feels like refreshing, and we need that energy. And with everything going on and on the eve of the anniversary of September 11th attacks, I feel that coming through this screen. I really do.
I needed it too. I needed to step aside from those walls of the office and just the house and just get fresh air. And it's actually morning here on the West Coast. So the birds are chirping, and I told you I had a hummingbird kind of floating by. So everyone's here to have this great conversation with us.
Exactly. All right. So let's get into it because these always go by so fast. Sybil, you are doing so many things, and you've had an incredible career, still growing that career. Can you walk us back from where you started to where you are? We kind of start with that question every single guest that we have on Goaldigger.
That's such a great question. Oh my goodness. Well, if I walk you back, I can go back to as early as 5, where I wanted to be a soul train dancer. People were like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I would like to be a soul train dancer. I always thought I wanted to dance the soul train. Like what I learned, as I grew older and realized I would never be a soul train dancer, I wasn't old enough, I wasn't qualified for all the different reasons. What I did learn was that I wanted to make people smile. And I recognized that Soul Train was a big part of my family story. Every Saturday night, we watched Soul Train. We, had popcorn and Coke. It was the only night we could have Coke. And it was just this moment of togetherness in my household. And I always loved the joy and the connection that it brought. And those tentacles stuck with me throughout my life. So when you fast forward to where I sit now, I've been on a journey, I think, to get back to honoring that 5-year-old girl who really wanted to bring joy and ignite the human spirit and really connect people in these moments. And so I journeyed through a host of careers, all interwoven because everyone builds on the next, but all leading me towards this clarity that I have, that my passion and my centerpiece is igniting the human spirit. And that is all I want to do. And the way I want to do that is through hosting these extraordinary experiences and conversations and curating these very safe spaces where people can feel connected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kate, there have been careers.
Yeah, because you have had so many different careers with which I think is so unique, because if you go back, and I think I'm a little bit older than you, but we're Gen Xers, right?
Yes,
You're a Gen Xer.
yes.
In the old days, right, you had a career. It wasn't, you weren't really younger. We thought we could have multiple careers. I mean, my mom was a teacher, my dad was an FBI agent. That was their career. Yes. You actually were a bit of a trailblazer, where you've kind of had multiple careers in the life of a Gen Xer, which isn't actually historically what we've done.
It's not. And I've been at war. I've been at war with my spirit the majority of the front end of my career. I went to college. When I graduated from college, I came to New York because I know, it's like, I'm going to be a fashion model for a while. And I'm going to do this because it's something that I love doing. I got here, I got in the center of that, and I was like, this isn't working for me. I don't get to share my thoughts. Like, no one wants to hear me talk. They just want to throw clothes. Like, this isn't, mind you, today a model has a totally different brand and career, right? But back then, you were just muted and you just throw clothes on. So I just felt like I was being silenced. So the next lane for me was to go back to what I loved it through college was GIS mapping, and that was part of my urban planning degree, and that helped me to get into marketing rooms where people wanted to find out where were consumers living. I was the map girl before there was any Google Maps, so you're talking early 2000s, and brands wanted to figure out where are consumers living, where are
Mm.
they going, where's the data girl. So that's me. Here comes the data. Up here, I got the maps. Okay, data girl. What does it say? What is the data telling us? I was able to translate consumer patterns because I'm able to interpret maps and the data as it associated. Well, that translated into I became more consumed with how people were communicating with consumers and what it meant than the maps. And so I
Right.
just started to insert myself more into the other conversation, which is knowing what we know about consumers. How will we present new products? How will we introduce messaging? And that's, I was like, oh, hello, Data Girl
I can
wants to
do.
share. So, okay, Data Girl, what do you got? Because that's how that was the culture back then. You were seen and not heard in
Right.
rooms, and I was in rooms with lots of white males, and I was very underrepresented. And so I was, hello, can I, girl in the corner, what's your name again? And that was it. And I was like, okay, this is girl in the corner's moment, bust through it. So I would take those moments and just offer ideas. And a lot of times they were shot down, but then they would be presented in other rooms. And
Right.
I learned, oh, my ideas are good. So I just need to find the rooms where I can represent and be respected for my ideas. And that just became, me planting and asking questions about how can I get in this meeting? How can I be a part of this team? Or how can I learn more about what people are doing here? And curiosity really opened the door for me because my big question is, well, what happens if we do this? Or how can we change the data or the outcome if we approach it differently? And it's been one big branding career, but it's been so many different facets of the work that I can see the resume probably looks wild.
I have so many questions because first of all, you're in urban planning, right? These maps, right? As a woman, as a Black woman or a woman of color, right? And you
Yes.
talked about on the Data Girl. Before that, you were the pretty girl, put on the clothes, right? Didn't have a voice. You're sitting in these rooms, sort of, hey, here I am. How did you really start to make sure your voice was being heard? Number one, as a woman, as a young woman, but more importantly, as a Black woman, where
Hmm.
you weren't represented at all.
At all. It was very hard, and I was very, 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 very insecure in the early days. Kate, it wasn't until I saw my ideas being articulated by other people and misrepresented that I got angry
Mm,
because I was like, that is the scope of the idea, but that is not what I said in that meeting. And if you're
right.
gonna steal it, you better steal it right.
Exactly.
And so I just became more intentional about being clear about who I was or who the idea belonged to and why I needed to be the person to represent it most effectively. And in doing that, it forced me to challenge some of the other concepts that came to the table because people tend to pay more attention to contradiction than they do to a good
Mm-hmm.
contribution, right?
Mm-hmm.
People, you do a contradiction, they're like, oh, but a
What is?
contribution,
Yeah.
yeah, what did she say? Is that the data? But contribution, they're like, so I started to just offer contradiction. I recognized that if I light a fire, just like I did at home, I'm the youngest of three girls and five children total. If I light a fire,
Wow.
everyone, so I know how to
Knows.
cry and get,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I just started to light more fires and offer contradiction. And it gave more voice and gave me more space to contribute.
Was that, I grew up, I have two brothers, one on each side, and sort of I grew up
Mm,
in my parents, my dad mainly saying it kind of started with food. Like if you don't go after the slice of pizza, it's going to be eaten, right? You've got to like make
yes,
your way in this.
that's
Your
right.
brothers are going to kind of take control. Was that growing up as the youngest of the three girls, but of five children, did that help you really sort of be that I'm going to keep my head up and my hand raised and in the front?
No, it didn't actually. You know what's interesting, Kate, was the majority of my life, I was accustomed to having a hand holder, a guide,
Wow.
having someone take me across the street, walk me to class, open the door, help me pattern and position myself. My sisters they were always the pattern. They made it very rocky and rugged, but they still patted me. They beat me up along the way, of course,
Yeah,
but they're
yes.
like, no one's gonna beat you but us. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
beat me up, I guess. However, so that part, the ability to take a lot of beat downs, yes, definitely came from my
Yeah.
but the challenge that I found when I walked into entrepreneurship was having the courage to stand alone. And I realized that I had had my hand held in so many ways with my siblings and even with my parents, guiding me, like you said, to one career. You're
Yeah.
going to go to college, you're going to get my mom was like, you at least have to have a master's. All right. So I go get my master's because I was in a 3-2 program at Columbia. It worked. And then when I got into the career path, I hated what I thought was going to be my career.
Mm,
So I started to try to clamber my way out. In the back of my head, having these people hold my hand saying, you need to have a career. You've got to have a solid career. And then after your career, then you can do those things that you really like. And I'm like, that sounds like 40 years of death. How am I
right.
going to?
Right. Right.
And I'm a very spirited person. And so I fought with that for so long. And it was me releasing myself from the idea that anyone needed to hold my hand that gave me the permission to start getting clarity on this is what I want to see. I want to create. This is what my personal independent solo contribution is. And it's good enough. If
Right.
no one else holds my hand, it's good enough. That
Yeah.
was a big like awakening for me
It's
when I
inter-
was like 30 something.
well, it's interesting because when I left banking after almost 20 years to start Luminary, I was in my early 40s, and
Hmm.
I think what I had not realized or recognized was that I had had a boss for so long, right?
Mm,
And a boss, a coach, a parent, a teacher. Those are all to your analogy, handholders, right? You're
yes,
doing well.
yes,
You're not doing well. Here's your feedback. Here's what you need to work on. Here's how we're going to help you. Here's how we're not going to help you. And I
yes.
think as an entrepreneur, all of a sudden it was like, that's gone. You're alone in this. You've got to help yourself. Obviously, you have a
Absolutely.
network and great communities to tap into, but it is that feeling of I'm on my own. I've got to make my own way, and I
Hmm.
have this voice, and I'm going to use it. But okay, so now I want to talk because we're talking. I just mentioned community and networks. You
Hmm.
have then, in addition to everything else you're doing, created this an amazing brand and started with a podcast and now also a conference, the Great Girlfriend Show. So can you talk a little bit
Hmm.
about why the Great Girlfriend Show, what's the purpose, and then we'll talk about the conference too.
Yes. So I got to a peak point, what I consider a peak point in my brand career, where I was working aggressively as a chief strategy officer at a company that I was incredibly passionate about. And my family and I were back and forth between New Jersey and San Diego for work. I had 2 toddlers, a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, excuse me, 1.5 and a 3-year-old. All the things were moving, but I knew that there was more and that I had to make a big move.
Mm,
And when I started to think about what felt true to me and what felt honorable to me, I knew that I wanted to give other women blueprints, safe spaces, connection, all the things that I wish that I had had
right.
that I didn't necessarily have in all of those years,
Yep.
but that I had established through a community of friendship. I also, in my work, began to learn the power of having a personal connection with yourself and understanding that when you are able to build that interpersonal relationship, when you develop the core strengths, competency, and the sort of know-how, it gives you the courage to build out great relationships with other people. And so I was a horrible networker my entire life career. I still am. I don't know how to network. I never learned it, but I do know how to meet people and have
Mm,
fun and connect with them on a human level. And I realized, well, great girlfriends are the people. These are the women that have been my confidants through thick and thin. They've been my network. They've
yes.
been, all the solutions that I've ever needed. And so I wanted other women to have access to that same storyline. But I understood that there's going to take work. And in order to do the work, you have to have lessons and you have to have insights. So let's start I'm a podcast listener. This should be easy, right? This is in 2015. I'm leaving this great career. Okay, bye guys. This has been wonderful, but I'm going to go start this thing. They're like, really? You're starting a podcast? No one does those. I'm like, I know. I listen to them and I'm going to
Yeah.
try one. And they're like, what is going on with her? I get with a friend. We have this conversation about what we wanted to create. We put 3 months of content together. I work in branding. I can do all the branding overnight. Let's get it going and let's put it out. And we thought it was going to be a simple journey. And it was initially to just create it and put it out. It was a very hidden gem of a market where you could really,
Mm,
really get inside of a woman's heart, mind, and spirit and be that voice and help to nurture and guide her. And so we decided to build out more content that would do that. In turn, what we found was that there was not just 50 women that we emailed about the show that were listening. There were 1,500 women initially that grabbed on and started to listen faithfully. And then it grew to 5,000 and 10 and then 20,000 and continues to build on like the monthly listeners that were
yeah.
tuning in. But the community part was the powerful piece. The emails, the DMs, all the responsive messages that said, I needed this.
Yep.
You're the voices in my head. I feel like I've met my friend circle. When are we meeting in person? And we're like, meeting in person? That's
What?
what is that wasn't on the scope. We weren't meeting in person. We're just doing this ear thing because we still got babies and businesses. So, and this is a passion project, right? Because I'm
Right.
still on that, you do the things you love later type path. But my spirit kept saying, go, go, go. And so we built community. What they asked for, we gave them. They asked for a conference, we gave them a conference. They asked for community events, we gave them everything they asked for. My deal was, okay, great girlfriends, you asked for this. If we create it, you better
Will
come.
come.
If you don't
Yeah.
come, we're not doing it anymore. They asked for products, we created the products. And what we found was that the message really resonated with millions of women around the nation now or the world, I should say, who agree that you can supercharge your relationships. You can supercharge your relationship with yourself. And the result is that you have these explosive relationships with unbounding love and possibility with other people.
Yeah.
And it really just works.
It's when we first talked, we had a call, I don't know, a couple months ago, and it was
Yeah.
like we were speaking the same language, right?
Yes.
And I just listening, I mean, you can't see. If we were in person, you'd see. As you were talking, I have the chills because I think there are many people that feel like they're the only one out there that's feeling these certain ways. They're the only one that didn't get the promotion. They're the only one struggling as a small business owner. They're the only ones struggling through transition. And when you get people to convene, even virtually, right, in a community,
Yeah.
that you realize you're, number one, you're not alone. Number two, I love that you said, because I feel the same with Luminary, when someone says, I needed this, right? And doesn't that keep you going?
Oh my gosh, it's everything. It's the fuel in the tank. It really
Yeah.
is, because I'm very purpose driven. And my goal was that women would, I know, and when you're building a brand, you always say, what do you want your consumers to experience? What do you want them to feel? What will be the takeaways? So when I hear that exchange happening, I feel so grateful to know that it's working. And I don't always feel that powerful. I don't
Right.
always feel that equipped. But when I know that, when I get those messages, it's a reminder that I'm on a path that is impactful and that I have to keep going.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's also, when people say, well, I don't know if I, as a small business owner or an entrepreneur, if you are already identifying as that, you've taken that step, you've taken that risk, you already have the courage to do this.
That's
right.
right.
So keep going. And it
That's
is
right.
going to take a village, as we say, for, as far as, I always say, that's not just for raising children. That's for building businesses, building careers.
Yeah.
And, you said you're not a good networker. You're like, I'm not a good networker. The word networking has become such a negative word. It's like, I talk to a lot of women in corporate. They're like, it's icky. I don't know how to do it. It's all building relationships. And
Yeah.
that's what you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. It's interesting, Kate, because in my career, everyone had cards and they wanted to pass cards. And I was like,
Yes.
I don't want to pass a card. I actually want to hug a person. Is that
Yes.
okay? So I
Yes.
was the hugger in the room. Hi, I'm Sybil. I'm hugging. And they're like, oh, I haven't had a hug all day. Well, then that's what I bring to the table.
Right.
And I didn't want to say, what do you do? I wanted to know what you're passionate about. So I had to reframe it to feel natural to me, because I didn't really care about people's titles. I cared about what mattered to them
To
more.
them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, so you now have this incredible podcast, huge community of girlfriends. And by the way, very diverse, right? It's a
Yes.
very diverse
Yes.
group of women. You then said people are saying, I want something in person. I want to, you now have this conference. So can we talk a little bit about this? Because to be honest, I knew about the podcast. I didn't know a ton until your team had reached out and said, hey, Luminary could be a great partner for us. And that's something also very quickly, people would say, okay, well, you have a community. Sybil has a community. Don't you compete? No, we actually can collaborate, and it makes the impact so much bigger. But talk about the conference, because it was in person. It was growing pretty large.
Yeah.
Pandemic. Now you're back.
Yes. Pandemic. My gosh.
I know.
Whew. Yes. The conference for 6 years has been sort of a family reunion, like pep rally in New York City. Yeah. It's so cool. And the reason is because so many people in our virtual community see each other as we do online. But to get in person and go, you're taller than I thought. Oh my goodness. All the things that you see when you're like, oh my God, that's my friend from the internet. I love this person. And then to be able to have proximity with speakers, leaders in the industries, different industries, including yourself, who are so valuable and bring so much to the world with so much authenticity. It's very important for women to have that proximity, because then you realize you're in a league. You're in a league with certain women, and what's possible, for Kate and Sybil, it's possible for me. I'm in the same room. So this is the space where it happens. And so the space is curated to be a safe learning connection environment where you can laugh, cry, take notes, kickstart something powerful if you want, or give up something powerful if you want, whatever the decisions are, but it's a choice maker. And it's been 6 years of creating this environment, because every year they said they wanted. I said, if you continue to want it, and if our brand partners continue to show up, we will absolutely curate this space. When COVID hit and my dad was passing last year, right in the middle of this conference, it was the hardest, most devastating, aggressive time for me in my life to have to balance all those things. However, showing up for me means to show up for what matters to me. And what mattered to me was to have a percentage of myself available to make sure our community was still strong and connected, while also being present with my family. So we did the best we could to curate virtual retreat with a different scope of experience. Last year was about exhaling. It was about taking time away, not to groom or grow anything, but just to consume the magnetic electric energy of community, so that we could feed one another and breathe life into one another, and even just know that we were going to be present for one another. This year is about the idea that we've taken on a ton of hats: teacher, mom, chef, business owner, daughter, all
Everything.
the things that we cover. Now this year that you're showing up for yourself and you're prepping for 2022, what does that look like now that you know what is on the inside of you, now that we've overcome, where we're still in the middle of a pandemic, however, we're on a lighter side of it. But now that we know the things that we didn't know in 2020, how can we do life better, stronger, and different? And that's what this year is about. And so I am so excited. I put Luminary at the top of my list of communities that I know that bring life and energy to the women in New York City, that are on ground and ever present. And I wanted you all to be a part of it, because I understand the power of having that in-person connection. So my hope is that great girlfriends who are unfamiliar with Luminary can now know, well, oh, we got a clubhouse. We can go, have a place where it's just girl power all day, with a leader who's authentically passionate about doing this community-driven work.
And that's why we are so connected. I love this. You're doing it in person on September 24th.
24th, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I put in the banner for people to find out more, but they just would go to the greatgirlfriendsconference.com. And I will say I'm so fortunate to be speaking at the conference, and I got my box.
Yay, you did.
It's amazing.
I'm so happy.
I put the group text candle at the front desk at Luminary, so everyone can see it. Yeah, we've got the affirmation cards out so everybody can use them. I have the notebook because I need it. I'm old school note taker. I can't do it on my computer. No, and I'm so looking forward to. Can you with a couple minutes left, who should come? Why should they come? Who's coming?
Yes. Okay. So this year we are doing a safely curated COVID distance experience. So it's an intimate group. I have to make that so clear because the
I
key to
know.
NYC made people panic. And I'm like, it's actually a good thing. We're going to curate safe and be conscious of safety, which means, we're not high-fiving as much as we would have in the past. We're probably not going to be, maskless the entire time, but we are
Yeah.
curating a safe space where we can come together. This is for every woman. I want to make it so clear that I am a woman of color who believes in the power of the global community of women of all races. It is so important we understand great girlfriends come in every shape, size, color, and it's very important for us to continue to curate relationships across those boundaries. So any woman who believes in the power of building strong community, who wants to be in the room with, when I say electrifying, supercharged women who are so mission minded and purpose driven, this is the space to do it. And I promise you, the day after you sleep like a baby, because it's like you're like, and then the next day you're like, what just happened to me? But it's going to be an electrifying experience. So if you want to learn, if you want to grow, and if you want to have that in-person connection, safely curated, COVID safe, then this is a space to do it. And it's just to put a little gas in your tank to ignite you for 2022, to reinforce your beliefs and your power, and to get you connected to the women who can help you take things to the next level.
I love that. I love that. And I can't wait to participate. We've got a couple of, I know even my team, I actually emailed your team this morning saying, hey, another person on the Luminary staff wants to join. So can they come? And certainly for the Luminary community, we're excited to have two communities hopefully come together. You are such an inspiring woman, leader, person, human. And what you've built is incredible. And I can't believe it's been 6 years of a conference, right? And you're still here. I think that's also so important. We recognize you're still here, because when things are hard, that's when a community needs itself the most.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And we have to remember to show up for the things that are important to us. And it's important to me that we have these connections. We would not be connected if we weren't still here on our missions, right? And I've had my eyes on Luminary for so long, and I've always admired the work and been to experiences. So to even bring together parallel communities, in one space, I just think that's why we do what we do.
That's impact, right? And it's multiplication. It's like this domino effect of impact. Okay, so I know we're at time. It always goes by so quickly. If you want to follow the Great Girlfriends, I put their IG in here at the Great Girlfriends. I've also put in here, it's thegreatgirlfriendsconference.com. I would encourage you, if you're in the New York area, sign up, but learn more, follow the podcast. Sybil, I can't wait to meet you in person in a week and a half. I'm going to hug. I'm vaccinated. I'm a hugger. I'm going to hug.
I'm giving it to you, Kate.
Good. I need that energy. And I just want to thank you for being on. For all of you out there, we will be back next Friday. And I just want to take a moment to pause and say that we are in a pivotal time in our history of the world, by the way. It has been a very challenging 18 plus months. Tomorrow is the anniversary of September 11th. And I hope that everyone listening, everyone around the world, no matter where you were that day, if you were alive, if you were growing up, if you were part of it at all, to take a moment to reflect and remember and never forget. Getting a little emotional. It is an emotional time, especially as a New Yorker.
Absolutely.
But never forget. And I think a conference like this and a community like the Great Girlfriends, this is where you get to fill yourself up. So thank you again, Sybil.
Yes, thank you so much, Kate. It's such a pleasure to meet you and become great girlfriends with you.
Exactly. And we'll see you all soon. Have a great weekend, everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Yes.
Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.